This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Cheers to 2022 and resolutions you can actually keep. How about having clean and shiny balls all year round? Our sponsors at Manscaped are here to save your balls this year and make the ball drop into 2022 the cleanest and sexiest ever. Set your first New Year's resolution with good intentions and join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code CU Podcast for 20% off and free shipping.
It's new year, new me with the global leaders in below the waist grooming. This year, take your package to the next level with their Performance Package 4.0 and brand new ultra premium body wash. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Signature Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer is designed to trim hair on loose skin. The advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate nuts. It also comes equipped with a 4000K LED spotlight that will shine a light to the promised land that 2022 is looking to be. A grooming routine isn't complete without applying Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver before showing off your 2022 self. These unique formulations take care of the sweatiest parts of your body and are a big boost to your confidence in the new year. To complete the set, Manscaped threw in their Shed travel bag and anti-chafing boxer briefs as free gifts to keep all your goodies stored comfortably. And the new product that needs no introduction, the Ultra Premium Body Wash from Manscaped, solves all three for the perfect addition to your daily grooming routine, but in the shower. This body wash smells great too. It's cologne infused with aloe vera and sea salt to keep your skin feeling clean, nice, and moisturized. Kick discomfort and poor hygiene to the curb this year and use the best tools for the job.
Cheers to new balls in 2022. Whether your resolution is to work out more or travel to new places, be sure to travel to manscaped.com for our exclusive offer of 20% off and free shipping with the code CU Podcast. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com with code CU Podcast. It's New Year, no pubes in 2022 with Manscaped. We got some voicemails, Ian.
Oh boy.
You go to anchor.fm/CU Podcast. You go, Ian. You don't pay any money, but you can leave us.
You can
leave us messages, and you can tell us how much you adore us. You can talk about Jersey stuff if you want. And then, here's our first one.
Hi guys, it's Fred from Manchester in the UK here. I'm currently studying Japanese and going studying abroad in Japan next year. And my question is, are there any Japanese exclusive video games you'd recommend? Like anything from the Famicom era all the way up to the PS2 or PS3 era. Been watching since 2014. Love the show, guys. Keep it up.
Ian's got tons. You can just rattle off pieces.
I mean, most of the stuff that I play is import. But if you want one that's really fun that I like, that I don't see a lot of people talking about, play Nappletail on the Dreamcast. I mentioned that one because it's a really fun platformer, 3D graphics, but 2D platformer with a weird like central hub town. And it's loosely kind of based off like the Alice in Wonderland mythos. And you don't need to know a lot of Japanese to play it, but I've always been interested in, what the actual story of the game. The game was fun to play through. I enjoyed it, but I always wanted to know if the story was interesting or weird. So I don't know, if you take Japanese and you want to play an import game, try Nappletail.
I'll just throw out the ones that some I've reviewed or covered. Splatterhouse, Pocket Graffiti is excellent on the Famicom.
Yeah, it is good.
It's a super fun and smart game and adorable. Little chibi characters. If you're into wrestling, the Fire Pro Wrestling Series is the best wrestling series ever created. That's mostly all the newer ones are Fire Pro World.
Returns and World are both domestic or localized, and there was 2 on the Game Boy.
But if you want to go in the past,
yep.
Obviously you can download. I mean, God, one of the first things I downloaded was the hacked English ROM of X Premium.
It's fun to play all the old Power Pros too, Fire Pros as well. It's fun to play the old Fire Pros to see what the roster is at any given time.
That X Premium roster was nuts. How many U.S. North American wrestlers they played in that? It was nuts. They basically had like 30 or more, 40 WCW and WF wrestlers. They didn't care. They had Undertaker. They had Hulk Hogan, but they didn't have all the special moves for him. That's the thing. Like they didn't have like a running leg drop yet. They had a regular leg drop, but not a running. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have that. They had a lot of the wrestlers, but not the moves for him. They didn't have like the Razor's Edge yet. For like, I think was Razor in that one. He might have been. There wasn't a proper Diamond Cutter yet. They had the Ace Crusher. There wasn't a Stone Cold Stunner. until the PlayStation one, for example.
Six Man, I think had us. No, 6 Man was still Ace Crusher.
Still Ace Crusher.
G definitely had one because it's got the kick and the
Yes. They actually had Stone Cold in the game.
Yeah.
But he was like short in the game, or like Goldberg was short. I remember that they had Goldberg and Stone Cold, but like they weren't the same height. Whatever. Next one.
Hi, Ian and Pat. Just wanted to say, calling from the east coast of Scotland. Ian, just wanted to say you've been inspirational to me as somebody who has anxiety too. I can recognize that, and I've listened to you for many years, and it's always been really helpful for me to. Anyway, your podcast has just been wonderful for me. My question is really about the European game scene. How do you see that fitting in, like the Spectrum and the Amstrad, and we didn't really get Nintendo until Super Nintendo, for me at least, and then Game Boy. So just wondering how that fits in with your kind of ideas of like history with video games.
This is one thing we actually, speaking of video games, we got to complain we didn't cover this stuff because we had absolutely no knowledge base because we didn't grow up with this stuff.
Right.
You couldn't get the Amstrad here. You couldn't get a ZX Spectrum. So like there was just no way to know how that game scene went. But obviously it was heavily computer based and not console based, like you said, until like the late 80s. Then you get to the 90s, and then Nintendo is more there. Their distribution was obviously awful in the 80s.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. Like obviously you had some stuff, some of those big franchises that were, we'll just say UK centric, European centric, like Elite's still around.
Right.
You know, but there, in my mind, there isn't a lot of those sort of franchises that started on those computers that you can still look back and be like, that's the franchise that sort of permeated over here. You know,
it's interesting because I was thinking about the European game scene last night, like literally as I was not sleeping. I was trying to. I'm so sitting there thinking about it, and I can't. Oh, and the reason why is because I got an ad for Antstream Arcade.
Okay.
And I have not checked it out yet, but I was looking at it and I said, it's free. I should make an account and I should check out some of that computer stuff because I know that there was a lot of computer stuff on there when they announced it, at least. Unfortunately, their webpage doesn't give you a list of the games. But I'll create an account today and look at it. But specifically because I wanted to look at and see more of what Europe was playing in the 80s and the 90s, because I never really did, because we never got those computers and stuff like that.
Codemasters games and things like that.
So, I hate to say it, but to the US, I don't think it's very much the European game market is still very much a European thing. Like you said, a lot of that never really expanded out. I would say that some of the bigger games like Dizzy got a little bit more well known over here,
but not a lot.
Not a lot, but a little bit. You said Elite, which is a good one, a little bit, but yeah, it's just it never stuck over here. So I do want to look into it. And thank you for saying that about anxiety. I'm always happy to help people with anxiety. It's a daily struggle.
Hey y'all, this is Joseph calling from Richmond, Virginia. I just kind of wanted to ask y'all about the Playdate and specifically the crank on the Playdate. Ever since they shut it off, I've honestly been really interested in that crank because just the different ways, it could afford amateur developers to brainstorm new gameplay mechanics in their games that may or may not have been done before that is only possible just by having this simple crank on the console.
Yeah, I mean, it was a stroke of genius. It was a crank of genius, I think. Because if they just said, we're going to do a little handheld, Ian, that's yellow without the crank, people were like, okay, it's cool, but why? The crank, it's just cool enough, and it's mechanical, and you interact with it. I don't know who thought of that idea, but whoever did, I mean, they're like a genius for thinking that crank.
But what I love about the crank is that it's interesting. It was a simple thing that got people's brains firing.
Because they're like, what is that? Why is that there?
And it created some cool ideas. Yeah. And in the future, people are probably not going to want to use the crank. And you know what? That's fine because you can make games without a crank. And I think Panic has been very good about not trying to shove the crank down anyone's throat.
Yeah. That'd be painful.
Well, yeah, angle. it's there. They obviously want people to see it because it gets people excited.
Yeah.
But it's not. They're not constantly talking. And I hate to bring it up again because it was such a small focus this week. But the Intellivision Amico constantly railing on something like the disc or the lights as like something you have to love. The Crank is like, it's there, but they've never. I don't feel like they've ever made it the forefront. A lot of those initial games are going to use it, but I feel like they just don't care if the Crank isn't used in 2 years. The Crank is used to get this into people's hands.
Okay, you're looking at like Rob the Robot. I think the Crank will be part of the identity always. I think it will be. There won't be like a schism, but I think it'll be almost like a badge of honor if you figure out how to use that Crank in your game.
No, and I don't think it's going to be like everyone's just going to immediately dump it. Yeah. But I would not be surprised as time goes on, there's less games with the Crank.
Sure, but then my point would be then why have it on there and not just release a regular game on Steam? Like why even have it on the handheld? Then?
Well, at that point, I think it's because you still have something that is. At that point, it's what the Amico could have been if the Amico. It would be a mildly successful console that exists within its own ecosystem, and because they're indie developers, they're paying these people for the games. You get them out.
2D art's cool. The little black
and white 2D art, 1-bit, on or off. Is
it 1-bit or 2-bit?
Oh, actually, you're right. Might be 2-bit.
I was just saying. I want pointed the bits. What's 4-bit versus 2-bit?
Oh, well, 1-bit would just be like no color shading. Gotcha. It would just be like
black or no.
The pixels either on or off.
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha.
They actually created a little system like the Amico wanted to. So I still think there would be people who are interested in it, but the Crank got people talking.
And they're short-term games too. Like, I mean, you can make a game that's 3 hours like a Zelda, but I don't think that's what the most common game type will be on that.
Right.
I think there'll be under half-hour gameplay sort of experiences on that. All right, next.
Hey, Pat and Ian, Marvel's here. I just have a quick question. I've recently been watching your video game years, the first decade, and I'm wondering if you guys are working on the second decade. I would love to be part of it, but yeah, I mean, the 90s was a huge time for growth for gaming, and I'd love to see you guys cover it sometime.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done, Clark. That's the thing. That's the big thing.
That's what we've been saying for years.
I mean, I don't want to make it about me, but I halted work on the book for almost a year to make sure the 80s got finished. So, like, I took a personal hit to make sure that video game years was finished, to put the work in, and it's tough. It was a passion project. That's the thing. Like it's hard to do that when you have more obligations and like a expensive mortgage and things like that. You have to get done, and I wasn't traveling to all the conventions then like I am now. Like I back in 13, 14, 4 conventions a year at most, 3 versus like 10. It's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff changes, obviously.
Hey, yo, what's good? It's Jacob from LA, your friendly neighborhood Lime Skittles dealer. Wonder if you could help me figure out what an arcade was I saw when I was a kid. There was a baby in a robot suit.
Captain Commando.
I guess I could just Google it on that alone.
Or just ask us.
Just ask us. That's Captain Commando.
Okay, bye.
Interesting. I don't know if it was underrated beat 'em up, but it's interesting, fun beat 'em up. You didn't see too often back in the day.
It's good. It's not as good as Final Fight.
Oh. You got to go to the top. It's not the 10,
Well,
it's a 7.
Because it's more of a direct comparison. I don't like it as much.
Final Fight's a go. That and Double Dragon.
Hey Pat, hey Ian. This is Patrick from Elgin, Illinois.
Hey Patrick.
My question's for Pat. Hey Pat, I was watching one of your Ultimate Collection videos, and I noticed on your shelf you had a couple of seasons of the show Nip Tuck. And I was kind of curious on your thoughts of the show. I've seen the whole entire show, and I thought the first 3 seasons were very good, and after that the show kind of lost its way. Just wanted to see if you've watched the whole thing and what your thoughts are. Thanks. Have a great day.
Second season could be the GOAT season. That's the serial killer season. That's probably the most. That's when the show blew up. We're talking FX in like 2005. Like around there, 2004. I used to watch it with my father on Friday nights or Saturday nights when I was home from college. Or I found it randomly. It was on FX. This is like early FX. This is like 2004 or so. I think 2003. And like they just ran like 3 episodes in a row. I'm like, what the hell is this? Plastic surgeons?
Yeah.
How can you make a show about plastic surgeons that's like not like a procedural, like sort of like, no, it's a drama about these fucked up plastic surgeons. One's a womanizer. One's a quote unquote family man that in a lot of ways is worse than the womanizer. That's one of the good things about the series, that the give and take between the two, different personalities. And then you have their assistant, you have the wife drama, you have the recurring characters. They add a creepy third Doctor. There's drama. It overachieved that show. Yes, there was like sexiness in that, but there was also like a dark comedy thing that show was on for like 6-7 years.
Yeah, way longer than I expected it to be.
And yeah, it got, it probably peaked season 2, 3, but I watched every episode. There was a satisfying ending to it, and I remember the last scene. I don't remember the how all the characters ended up, but no, it was interesting. Julie McMahon as the sleazy, womanizing Doctor was really good. He was up for Bond at one point. Julie McMahon. He was also on Charmed. He was one of the boyfriends on Charmed. Why is Charmed coming up every week now?
Yeah, weird.
It's weird. Do a few more.
He'll talk about sports, trees, the birds and the bees. It's time to ask Frank. Hey guys, just wondering if Frank could ever come on the podcast or come on your side podcast and just talk about life. He's the best. Thanks.
Hey Josh. Frank's been on the Not So Common podcast like 3-4 times. Very interesting experiences talking about the 60s and the Vietnam War and the 70s and the cultural stuff going on. No, Frank, yeah, check him out. 3 or 4 times. And I had an updated Ask Frank in 2020. We did a sit down. Maybe I'll do one this year. It's been a bit.
Pat and Ian, this is Andrew from Wisconsin.
Hey.
If you could be a consultant for any developer or any video game franchise, what advice would you give, or what would you try to change for a video game or series? Thank you. Keep it up. You guys are great.
Put on your consulting hattie. And what series would you want to consult for? Is there one you want to say? You know what? I want to see Kirby, but Kirby riding on a hippo.
In all seriousness, I always wanted to sit down on a session with like the devs for Fire Pro.
Oh, okay.
If there most games I play them and I'm like, okay, this is good or bad, and then I move on. But I mean, Fire Pro was such a huge part of my life for so long. I mean, people get together and do video game tournaments every week. I was getting together with the same group of friends every week for like 5 years to play Fire Pro. Like every week.
Shit.
We watched wrestling and then we played Fire Pro, and the Fire Pro portion of it was almost always longer than the actual watching wrestling portion. Like when I say I'm good at Fire Pro, that's why I say it. It's one of the only games I've actually probably done that amount of like real hands-on time with. I mean, I played that game 4 years, at least for 2 to 3 hours every week.
You needed my Disco Inferno creator wrestler, and you needed them in your Fed.
So, I mean, I'm not going to get into it now, but yes, I've always had lots of ideas for the Fire Pro stuff.
What would you want to add to it? That's not.
I mean, a lot of the stuff they have added, but I'd have to go back and play again and refresh it. But it was always things with the controls, or just like things that I always thought that they did that could be done a little bit easier. Yeah, it's always
they've added most of like the missing, like all the running moves they now have they didn't have.
Yeah.
The only thing they don't have like a create a storyline, do they?
I don't know.
That would be. They have create a belt, I think. They have create a ring. They don't. You can't do create a move because they're all sprites. That'd be tough to do that. They put that.
There are people who make moves. I mean,
they make their own. They put them in the game
and put them in the online on the Steam version.
But not a tool though. As long as there's a tool.
That I don't know. Not if there is. It's not made by them. It was obviously
world create a move.
I'm not sure how that is done. No.
But a storyline mode would be great. There's a DLC move crafter. Okay.
Oh.
What?
Okay.
Is that official? Okay, that's in the game. That's from Spike Chunsoft.
How to create moves using the move craft.
Okay.
So they added.
Holy shit! They added to that was.
Yeah, wow. I haven't paid attention in probably a year and a half.
So
I've been meaning to play again.
That was June of 2020. That's the last Fire Pro you might ever need.
Well, that's the point.
They're done.
I think that's the point. And they're an extremely small team, and the fact that World happened was a big deal.
That was that a shock to people when that happened?
Yeah, that was
because Returns was like 2009 or so.
Yeah, and I think most people thought that was going to be the swan song, but it wasn't.
But this is them saying, "Okay, we're giving you everything you need."
Yeah, they're really just trying to set people up for the long haul.
I want a scalable character. I don't want just 3 heights. I want like a scalable height. That's the only thing. That might be tough. I'm just saying that it would be nice to have 4 or 5 heights instead
with
of 3.
3 different heights. It's probably a lot easier to get the moves to look right on people. You do scalable, it's going to break it.
Give me one more height even.
Sure.
I don't want to see
Bret
Hart the same height as Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
and Hogan should be bigger than Hart, but not as big as The Undertaker. I need one more height, Spike. One more height. Give me 4, not 3. That's all I ask. Is there a storyline? Fire Pro World create a story.
I think one of I don't know. Not a creative storyline, I don't think.
There is a story mode, but the story mode on Game Facts. Yeah, that's the only thing I think you would need, like a story mode creation.
Sure.
That's it. Like put your own dialogue and
scripting and stuff like that.
If then statements wouldn't be super complicated. Maybe you don't have to do for like generations. Do it like year by year, even. That would be cool. So, anyway, we'll do 2 more.
Hey Pat, hey Ian. This is Tyler from Florida. I was just listening to your most recent episode about the NFTs and gaming, and it struck me odd that people talk about the kill counts and skins and the who played what, and it just reminds me of a game I play called Team Fortress 2, and they've been doing this for 14 years. 14 years they've been doing kill streaks and kill counts and counters and professionals and who used what in what tournament here and there. And they've been doing it with name tags and databases and literal counters.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he said. Like, you can do all this stuff with that NFT. That's the thing. You can track all this stuff.
Yeah. You don't need this immutable ledger for any of this stuff. You don't. And like when people talk about it, they're like, it's ridiculous.
All right, you want to do one more? We'll check in on someone?
Yeah, we can do one more.
So now you guys are taking shots at my investors, really? Saying they're old and out of touch. You know, that's just because there were a bunch of investor comments you didn't bother reading, like this one. The Intellivision Amico looks to be just what I need now that they took MASH off the air. Right, exactly. And this one here, I don't care about modern gaming or modern anything, so the Amico is perfect for somebody like me. God bless Tommy Tallarico and God bless President Reagan. Nice. And these are real investors with real investor names. You know, you mentioned Wilford Earl Ford Jr. There's also Maximilian Hammersmith. There's Cornelius T. Manchester III. There's Archibald Fezziwig. I could go on forever. But then, of course, the guy who has a complaint about his investment, what's his name? Darren. Boo, that's not a real investor. Your heart is clearly not in this, sir, so just take a hike with your loser name. Smell you later.
Oh, wow. The smell you later.
Wow.
Smell you later from 87. Wow. Well, you know, some of those investors, maybe they have the old timey investors, you know, they use a quill pen at one point in their lives, maybe wrote on a piece of
parchment,
a parchment that they rolled up, you know,